Good morning, everyone. Lovely being with you on this Wednesday morning, which it is already. My name is Ulla Koenig. I'm a mindfulness and Dharma teacher from southern Germany, and sun is gone again. So at least our light this morning is quite good, and we can start our session. I hope you hear and see me all right. And that brings us to the structural framework. If you don't, if the sound is off or you have any technical issues, please go to the chat box and let the Sangha know. Let me know, and we see whether we can support you, figure out what is going on for you. And this session is going to be 15 minutes. I try to keep it short and sweet. 15 minutes right in the beginning now. And then we're going to have about half an hour for meditation. And then we have time for questions, answers, reflections, and your impressions on the practice. And that was really sweet and precious the last days. Not only questions, but also what you experienced during practice. As much the supportive, as much as the challenges, the resistances, all is really welcome. And please put that in the question box whenever you have something to share. And if you put comment in capital letters or question in capital letters before that, this will help me to find out what to respond to. So I really like this opportunity to create this space with you rather than me just giving the input. If you would like or are capable to be Sangha Live as well as myself, really welcome any donations, financial support you can give, as much the small amounts as the whatever that is, bigger amounts. Any support is really truly welcome, and it helps Sangha Live to keep their financial costs covered. And it, of course, some part of it will also be given to me for the teachings this week. And just a huge thank you for all that you have given in the past. It was really very much appreciated. So big thank you here. Okay. And now we're going to talk about this theme of ignorance, confusion, delusion, blindness, not knowing. And it can sound so harsh. And I hope what I was trying to convey the past couple of days was really that there is usually, most of the times, I would say 90% of the times, no bad intention where we are deliberately ignorant, where we are deliberately confused. And maybe you saw that on the first day. We can't make clarity happen. That is what we discussed. We can put the conditions in place that clarity might arise. Yeah. And that you don't need to feel guilty and ashamed for being unclear at times. Yeah. Rather to investigate it and find out what supports a little bit more clarity during the day. And same thing yesterday, where we talked about sensitivity. Yeah, and we notice sometimes we back off and get out of touch with the situation or another person. And again, no bad intention, but maybe yet there is some capacity to grow, to be with something. Yeah. And because it feels still overwhelming and too challenging, we back off. We get insensitive, out of touch with something. So I hope by now you see that ignorance is not something we're doing deliberately, but something which we do out of a lack of capacity. Yeah. And the same thing is true for what I want to talk about today, which is situations where we make a choice, where we have a decision to make. Yeah, there's all those small, tiny decisions over the day. And we are all aware of those moments where we actually, some part in the back of our brains knows better. Yeah, not to do that, not to eat that, not to say that, not to go there. And yet, we follow through on the impulse. Yeah. And that is what I want to talk about today. This decision making, the ignorance, the blindness in our decision making processes. Now, I found in a scientific book I read last week that actually up to 95%, what a huge number, of our actions are guided by unconscious clues on habitual patterns. Yeah, 95% of the time we're in autopilot. I like to believe that the more mindfulness practice and meditation practice we have weaved into our daily lives, over the months and years, that the 95% comes down. Yeah, that is, I want to act to a larger degree in a conscious way. I actually want to have a choice. Yeah. And yet I like that number, 95%, because it shows me where the usual human comes from. 95% on autopilot, saying, wow, that is a huge number. And every percent less will give me more and more of a choice. So actually, how does that scenario of making a choice happen during our day? I find 4 ways in which decision making, having a choice, usually displays. Yeah. 4 ways. The first one is the ideal one, which happens maybe to the 5% which weren't covered by the habitual patterns and unconscious clues. Those 5% display as following. I recognize there is enough mindfulness. I recognize an impulse rising up in the being saying, do this, say that, think about this. Yeah. And I notice, this impulse doesn't feel quite well. It has a push, it has a pull, it has some drive to it. There is something questionable about this impulse. And I'm able to hold it in the mindful awareness and to not act upon it, not think the thought, not say the words, not do the action. Yeah. Saying, no, that doesn't feel healthy. The Buddha would say it feels unwholesome. Yeah. Okay. Ideal scenario. And there are 3 other scenarios which I find are more usual. Yeah. I don't recognize the impulse. It comes very quickly. It shoots through the system. Yeah. And it overspills into action very quickly. We all speak about this, having this very short patience span, or this very short awareness span, where things just spill over very quickly. And the important part here is there's no recognition of the impulse. Yeah, we don't even notice it building up. Second scenario. Third scenario, I recognize that impulse. I notice it. There comes this yucky drive. There comes this urge, to do something, to think something. And we all know that we notice the impulse coming up, and it's as if we were bystanders. We're watching the impulse finding its way through the system, and we see the words are spoken. We notice the action is taken. We are compelled to think something. And this impulse has so much drive, we can only watch it unfolding. Yeah, there is too little awareness, too little space around it to do something about it. Yeah, I have that when I walk to the refrigerator sometimes. I know, actually I don't need some food. Yeah. And I can still watch the fridge open. And it's sometimes as if you would be on autopilot and you're just literally the bystander. Yeah, that is the third scenario. And potentially you know that as well. And the fourth one is also a very interesting one. We recognize the unwholesome impulse, and something is building up. And we actually, hand on heart, do not have the motivation or do not feel the need to stop it. Yeah, we have all those stories going on about, it's going to be fine. It's not going to be that dramatic. Yeah, I know when I was a teenager and went to a party. Yeah, partied often enough. Actually knew that drinking too much, staying up too late, smoking too much would have consequences. Yeah, and in that very moment, I was on the party. That voice is coming and saying, "No, I'm gonna be fine. Yeah, it's gonna be okay," until the next morning. Yeah, and those interesting, convincing voices, they are something really to explore. Yeah, beautiful. So 4 scenarios, and you might have seen that there is a certain amount of blindness, not knowing, and ignorance in all of those 4 scenarios to a different degree. So what can we learn from those scenarios? First of all, I really like to practice in a way which makes me aware. Yeah, really makes me aware of. It's not one heap of blindness and clarity. It's actually a more variable, more interesting dynamic than just, good decision process, bad decision process. Can I get a bit curious in my investigation of how I make decisions? Second, can we notice if there is no recognition of an unwholesome impulse? We actually have no choice. That would be the second scenario. If I don't recognize the impulse which is shooting through the system, it unfolds into action without me having any say over it. So there is a large importance, if we want to be responsible for our lives, a large importance of practicing these mindfulness and awareness skills. And the Buddha said it beautifully. He did not say be mindful and aware 100% all of the time. I think he acknowledged that this would be too much for all of us. Hyper aware of everything which is shooting through the system. He said enough mindfulness to notice when something unwholesome is building up. And I see mindfulness as my guardian angel, so to say, which is, there's a slight awareness always in the background. And it comes to the foreground of mind capacities when something feels triggered in the body, when something feels starting to build, when something starts to tense up and to yearn and to go and pull and push. This is where awareness starts to become bigger. But a lot of the time it's like a background function which is just accompanying me. The Buddha said in the Satipatthana Sutta, just enough mindfulness to be able to have this continuous awareness. And I find, that might be some relief to some of the practitioners. The other thing is no recognition, no choice also means to me there is once again a huge emphasis on rest, pausing, and learning how to soothe and calm ourselves. You might know for yourself, the more agitated you are, the more lack of sleep there is, the less rest and capacity to soothe yourself there is, the less capacity there is to recognize impulses, because there is shooting so much through the system. How can you hold 100 impulses? No way. So in calming ourselves, rooting ourselves, grounding ourselves, we're reducing the number of impulses we actually have to be aware of, accompany, so to say. The second thing I want to say about decision making in contact with that 4 scenarios I just named is to see that often enough our awareness, our mindfulness is too small of a vessel. Now, an image. Imagine that we have this vessel of awareness, this vessel of mindfulness, maybe like a cup, or if it's broad and beautiful, it might be a pot. And it's shrinking and it's enlarging, depending on how much awareness there is. Hopefully our practice allows the vessel of awareness to grow over time. And yet there will be some things in life happening which shrink the vessel again. So it's actually alive in its dynamic. Now an impulse shoots through body, heart, and mind. Say this, or think about that, or go there, do this. Like my very trivial urge to go to the refrigerator when I'm not hungry. Now, depending on the size of this vessel, this impulse can be contained and held, and maybe met with some awareness, some compassionate awareness, some friendly awareness, or some equanimity, whatever it is. If the vessel is yet too small, or there are already too many things in there, what happens it starts to spill over into action. It starts to spill over into action. And these are the moments when we are just by watches, when we stand by ourselves and just see, I can't contain it. I can see it, I'm aware of it, and I can't contain the impulse. And often these are the moments where we meet ourselves with a lot of shame and guilt. And you think, oh, I've seen it. I should have been able to stop it. Yeah. And we put basically another impulse in this vessel, which is already too small to hold anything. And it just spills over into shame and into inner critic and all of that. Can we be wiser than that? Can we see that they're, based on the viewer dependent arising, rather than shaming ourselves, rather than saying, I should have been able to, can we take care of the vessel? Saying, oh, obviously, these kind of situations really require me to widen my awareness. What can I do? What can I do in the future to build that awareness in a larger scale? Yeah, and just to see that the shrinking of the vessel, it depends also on our energy levels, on the calmness of our being, on how familiar we are with a certain dynamic, how often we've gone through this process and watched it and failed at it and understood it a bit better and gone round in circles. And actually, I believe every time I go round in circles, just the familiarity with an impulse, it allows it to grow a bit. It also depends very much on the intensity of the dynamic. If something really frightens us, if something really triggers our pushes and pulls, it spills over. It has more dynamic. It fills it over quickly. Yeah. And the last thing is, how much do you depend on your willpower over the day? Yeah. Because I believe to hold a strong impulse, it also takes some capacity of our willpower. Yeah. And we have very little willpower. We all believe in our individualistic societies very much based upon this belief of willpower is the thing to control yourself. And actually we are all making too much of a debit on our willpower capacity. We overuse it. And then at the end of the day, at the end of the week, we have willpower burnout. We can't hold it where it's necessary because we rely hard on this capacity only of willpower. So that would be the second scenario where we notice the unwholesome impulse and what can we do about containing it a little bit more. So rather take care of your capacity to be aware and to be mindful, to calm yourself, soothe yourself, invest in that rather than feeling shame and guilt about the moments where you notice something but can't stop it. And the third scenario is this interesting scenario where you are actually aware. You notice the impulse building up and just some story creeps in or some like this false compassion where you think, oh dear one, you really deserve that. Don't worry. Yeah. You deserve to have that treat. You deserve to, etc., etc. Or it's really not that bad. Like, and afterwards some regret, some shame, some guilt kicks in. Yeah. But there's this overlayer of justification, which is actually a false friend at times. So we have this tendency to ignore what we know. Yeah, I know this isn't good for me. I've been through that a couple of times, and I know from my own experience, not because some person tells me, eating food of the refrigerator in huge amounts is bad. Yeah, I know I'm going to feel miserable. Yeah, know I'm going to feel miserable if I act out on my irritation with my kids. Yeah, I'm going to feel miserable afterwards. Actually, in a calm moment, that is the important one. In a calm moment where I'm settled and rooted, I clearly know I don't want to do that. Yeah. So the thing is, if we know something really, really seen it, like the Buddha said, being seen and know something, not on the intellectual level, but on almost on the felt sense, it gives us responsibility. Yeah. If sometimes people come and say, oh, I'd rather not waken up to that fact in my life because now I know I have to find ways to align with that. Yeah. So it's this act of stepping into our integrity, stepping into our responsibility. And I believe that in order to be able to live from a place of integrity and responsibility, we need to make ourselves familiar with the resistance. Else it's just one of those other willpower things, and we have enough of them. Yeah. If I, for example, speaking about integrity, if I have a theme around honesty, yeah, and I say, oh, actually there is a longing almost in me to speak from a place of honesty and clarity with others. The first step would not to be to say, okay, with willpower, I'm saying the truth every time, yeah, but to look into the resistances. Now it's easy. Now it's challenging. Now it's something I say freely and trouble, and now it's really causing me some fear and some tension. So that we look into the price and look into the costs of acting in accordance with the inner wisdom. Yeah. And what are those costs? Experience of discomfort. Yeah. Experience of not getting the pleasure we actually would like to get, called renunciation. Experience of conflict and friction with others, and experience of uncertainty. Just doesn't feel that safe, doesn't feel that stable if I do that now. So these are usually the costs. And it's a practice to step into one's integrity. We can easily overwhelm ourselves and cut off more than we can take. So I love to see integritize is not a word, but I would love for it to be, to say step by step by step, I'm growing into my integrity. Not because Ulla says so or any other teacher says so, but it's beautiful. It's really nourishing. It's beautiful to live from one's place of integrity. I honor, I respect. This is an immense source for self-respect there. To say living from integrity is something I can really value about this body, heart, and mind. And just a small reminder about the quote from Viktor Frankl, you all might know by now. He said, under the harsh circumstances of a concentration camp in Germany during the Second World War, he said, everything can be taken from a person, but one thing, the last of human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's way. So Frankl is speaking about the core integrity here, to treasure the integrity, to say as much as I can on my training, I will align with, orientate towards integrity. And if it's not a punishment, but something we actually treasure, one participant said it lately in one of our Kalyanamita sessions, to imagine it's the trunk of the tree, that which holds us stable and upright, this integrity, which beautifies our lives in a kind of way. If I see it like something as precious as this, in situations where the small voice of justification and if justification comes in, I might have something more beautiful aside that and say, no, I'm not going to give up this sense of integrity for a small amount of pleasure. So, that all being said, a just very quick summary for your practice for today, if you like. Just look into 1, 2, 3 occasions of decision making over the course of your day and see whether you can recognize those 4 aspects. Moments where you notice a questionable impulse and are able to stop that, to contain that, to hold that until it changes and dissolves. And then to appreciate that beautiful moment where mindfulness has worked on its best. And then notice situations where the impulse has shoot through, gone into action, and afterwards you look at the outcome and say, whoa, I didn't even notice that building up. Notice that as well. Notice how impulses, how you can be aware of impulses and can yet notice, the vessel is too small, can't contain it. That will happen. And then you will have this impulses where you are not quite convinced to stop them. There is this small conviction that it's not going to be that bad, that it's okay to do that it's justified. Whereas there is something in the background, your inner wisdom, your integrity, which actually knows better. And I hope I gave you some food for thought and how to work with that. And I hope I could convey the compassion in the process, that there is no deliberate bad intention, that there is no need to shame and guilt, put guilt upon yourself. But that is a very human decision-making process. And actually, out of care for ourselves, we can lean towards more integrity, lean towards more soothing and calming ourselves, so that we actually have choice points. Yeah, clarity and choice points, rather than being in that realm of 95% of habits and triggering cues, and just being a ping pong ball in life. Okay, so that was my input for today. Now we're going to practice. And I would like you to find your seat, lie down, stand up, whatever you prefer. I'm going to switch on the electric charge for the computer for a minute while you find your position to practice in. Okay. So, I hope you find your place for practice for today. And maybe we can experience some of that which we just talked about, or basically I talked about, in the meditation of this morning. We can start with the intention with which we meditate. Can we this morning play with the idea that this is almost a, dare I say, sacred moment, a very important moment where we, to the best of our abilities, soothe and calm the heart, mind, the nervous system, the body, so that we can make healthy decisions, wholesome decisions for ourselves and others over the day. May this practice make its small, humble contribution to a wholesome day for all of us. In order to do so, may we very gently work with body, heart and mind so that we do not put more pressure, more aversion, more tugging and pulling upon it. But maybe rather rock the unhealthy impulses to sleep, like rocking a baby to sleep. It's okay. Maybe have the patience and the dedication and a gentle form of diligence to be with the agitation within. And I'd like you to find the contact point of the body with the chair, the earth, the mattress, the cushion. Wherever you feel the contact the strongest in this very moment. And see whether you can invite your exhale to be a guide for the body. Exhale one layer of tension, agitation towards the earth, the body. And if the body is still resisting, that's okay. It's preparing itself, it's ready to defend and be watchful and be ready to act if necessary. Oh, dear body, you're taking up a lot of responsibility here. It's actually pretty safe at the moment. If you would like to, with the next exhale, somewhere, anywhere, you could give up some of the tension. And if you feel even the slightest muscle relaxing a bit, if you feel one layer of tension dissolving into the earth, just enjoy. There should be a small pleasurable feeling with that. Take that in. It actually feels good. Good, this practice of soothing and earthing. Even if there is still a lot of tension going on, the small relaxation has its beauty to it. And I see whether there are any other tight places within the body. Belly, chest, maybe even in the head, where the thinking is going on, the somatic sense of thinking. And just offer it on its felt borders, the borders of the tension, as if there is a lump or a contraction or an agitation, and it is limited in space. It's not over the entire body, it's not filling up all of your awareness. And if you come to that borders, the outer edges of that contraction, that agitation, can you allow those almost outer layers to soften a bit? It doesn't have to go away completely. Too much of an endeavor. Just soften the outmost layers, maybe with the idea of breathing around it. Maybe with the idea of having all that spaciousness around you to dissolve into. And if you notice you're getting into a habit, into perspective of laboring that away, of getting that done, back off a little. No need to effort so much. Just Maybe the image helps of just offering a wild animal some food. It might come, might not come. But the last thing you would do would be to get closer and to force it, to push it to eat the food. Just the offering of, if you like the attention, there's the possibility, the invitation to let go of one layer of density. And if that gets too much, just like yesterday, tap in, tap out. And please tap out and come back to where it feels easy in the body, where it feels comfortable. And invite those comfortable places which are already a bit relaxed to relax even further. If the contact with the unpleasant is overwhelming, there's no need to stay. And now we're going to do an experiment. And experiments don't have clear described results, so just see what you find for yourself. Can you find the somatic sense of thinking? If thoughts had a feeling to them, or a place, a resonance somewhere in the body, where would that be most likely? Maybe between the temples, behind the eyes, maybe in the forefront of your head, maybe somewhere totally else. Maybe where we gently look at that resonance of thinking, this activation of mind, you might not actually find any thoughts, but maybe a physical resonance of activity, movement, density. It's like a potential pool for thoughts, pool for potential thoughts, images, thinking. thoughts not yet born into existence. And what happens if you look at that physical resonance of potential thoughts, like from a gentle distance, no need to go so close. Maybe feel that part of your body and the space around you. Feel that part of the body and the breath and the body. There can surely be some sense of discomfort with it. So does backing off help you to make it easier to meet that? And just see whether holding it so calmly and yet seeing it so clearly helps it to calm a little, soothe a little the activation. Maybe you can even use the image of gently breathing around it, softening it with the breath. Now just drop any attempts to change anything, to make anything different. It was what it was in this experiment. Oh, and just allow yourself to sit, to lie, to stand just as you are in this moment. No need to do anything, create anything, make anything happen. Just be. Notice how you're doing right now. How is the felt sense? How much impulses to do something, say something, think something are there right now? And then gently start wriggling your fingers and your toes. If you like, start moving and stretching, yawning and sighing. Wake up this body with some gentleness. And when you feel ready, you're invited to come back to the screen. Okay, so I hope you're feeling all right. And now our possibility to share with each other and to look into this practice. has come. So you could go to the chat box and just let me know any experiences with this decision-making process. What makes it harder? What makes it easier for you? Any experiences with the impulses you just felt in the meditation you would like to share, or really any question you have on the practice of this week, on the practice for today, maybe something related to your daily life. All is really welcome, and I'll just wait and see what you bring up. Great, I see that the talk today had some response to a couple of you. That's good to know. Hopefully it brings some curiosity and interest to your decision-making process, rather than the usual shame and guilt and I shouldn't have, and why did I do that? Which is just a dead end. Yeah, shame and guilt so often are just a dead end, and they stop us from learning and growing. Curiosity and investigation, opening up the ways again of looking differently and actually learning something. Oh, and actually, while you might be typing, which hopefully some of you are doing, I'm going to share the quote from Viktor Frankl, which I still find to be very inspiring, although many of you might already be familiar with it. And I also will share my email address, which I usually do, just because some of you might not feel okay with sharing something in public with all the others. So if you have something to share, which you want to share in private with me, or just a question on the practice, please feel free to contact me. And there's also an opportunity to have a one-to-one conversation if it's something which is not easily shared in an email. Okay, now questions coming. Beautiful, or sharings. Thank you. Curtin is sharing. When I get angry at that moment, I know that I'm doing wrong, but I can't stop myself from saying and doing that feel regret later. Yeah, that is just exactly, Curtin, as you're sharing. That moment where the anger is a huge dynamic and our vessel to contain the anger is actually far too small. That is the moment where the urge comes through, body, heart, and mind, and because awareness can't catch it yet, there's the overspill. Yeah, there is the overspill into action, and we feel the regret later. So to honor those moments and to say, I need to find ways to gently grow that vessel. Yeah, to gently grow that vessel. So what components do I need? And I find especially with the anger, because anger is such a pointer towards there were boundaries of yours, there were needs of yours which have been crossed, which you feel like have been not respected and not been taken care of. The anger is a very quick way to kind of restore that. Often we do that in not very helpful ways, but there's skillful ways to transition from the anger towards compassionate care for yourself, but usually not in the pretty first impulse. The pretty first impulse usually is to hurt the other, just because we have hurt, because our boundaries and our needs have not been taken care of. So I find that which helps me to contain the anger, that which allows me to broaden the vessel in that moment of angry feelings is usually compassion with myself, to say that is a real moment of ouch, that is a real hurt, not to have the boundaries which make me feel safe and stable met, not to have my needs met, is always a feeling of ouch, and to bring compassion to that moment, that usually allows me to largen that vessel, and to maybe hold the impulse until I can figure out an appropriate way to compassionately care for those needs and those boundaries with wise words, maybe clear words, maybe risking the conflict, all yes to that, but without the aggression of hurting the other. I hope that helps, Curtin. Something which we all might be familiar with. So Jane is sharing that was comforting. She feels shame after a knee-jerk reaction to a situation last week. Yes, Jane, we all do that. We all have those moments of, oh, yeah, I shouldn't have done that. And the regret is smoldering. And I find it really important to take care of that regret, because it can be that smoldering or almost that infected wound, which is not allowing us to rest and come back to calm again. Yeah, if you don't transform the regret, it's just going on underneath us. Yeah, it's gnawing away on our self-respect. So my question usually, with which I work, is, dear regret, dear sense of guilt, what value are you pointing me to? Yeah, what value, what thing which was important and dear to me did I miss in that situation for whatever reason? And to bring it back into the present situation, saying it was honesty, maybe, or it was relying on, I don't know, friendship or friendliness, yeah, rather than aggression or something like that. And to say, dear regret, thank you for showing me that once again. And I will instill a practice of friendliness, of honesty, of non-harming, whatever it is, in my day-to-day, in my next meeting with another person. So that the regret is not pointing only backwards to the past, where we can't change anything anymore. Yeah, it's just a backward pointer towards the situation which can't be solved anymore. But it's actually something which starts to inform the future. And that, I find, brings relief. Yeah, that saying thank you for reminding about how important integrity is to me. And I will practice with this. And every time the regret comes back up again, saying, yeah, thank you for reminding me. And see, here I'm doing my practice and my work. And then you can potentially, at least that helps it to me, dissolve the regret over time. So Mariavi's sharing, it was really good to release the physical subtract of thinking and to allow it to relax and calm down. Yeah, so it's very lovely to read that. I found that immensely helpful. If I come to that bubbling pool of potential thoughts, and rather than hunting that thought down and hunting that thought down, just to stay with this agitation of the thinking mind and to soften that and to relax that a bit, that can, for me at least, contribute to a huge amount of felt clarity after a meditation session. So I wanted to share that potential with you. Okay, Sue is writing, really good to visualize the part of the body where the thinking is. Yeah, mine was behind my ears. Beautiful, great. So another person who found that practice beneficial. And please be rest assured, if it did not work for you, yeah, all people are different, and that is why we have so many meditation techniques and tools. There will be a different one for you. So Tim is writing, I wrote some positive affirmations for myself, one of which is, I'm acting with certainty of intention, which often feels ridiculous through the day, as I feel unconfident about so many micro decisions. Yeah, but actually it does help me to reflect on how conscious a choice is or not. Beautiful. I've been more accepting of my actions. Also, your mention of willpower reminded me of a psychotherapist who wrote that there is no actual element or substance of willpower, just a series of choices and actions. Yeah, great. Thank you, Tim. So that is very interesting. This affirmation you name actually, that is beautiful, brings up moments, an awareness of decision making, first of all. It's also an awareness of how your attitude, your attitude towards decisions is. It's not that the affirmation makes you do the thing. The affirmation makes you more aware of the whole decision-making process. And then this feeling of being unconfident. And that is so true for so many situations. People can get a headache about, is it right to eat, I don't know, very trivial example, but you might relate to it to your daily life. Is it right to eat muesli, or should I eat bread with marmalade? Oh, what is the right choice? What is the right choice? And that which gives us headache is that we think there needs to be one right choice and a bunch of wrong choices. Yeah, and often enough in life, most decisions where we get headache about and feel doubt about, they don't really make such a difference. They don't really make a huge difference. So in our fear of making wrong choices, in our fear of making mistakes, we fall prey to the hindrance of doubt. Yeah, does it really make a difference? And can I use my willpower? Can I use that? I define willpower as my capacity to say no, yeah, to a strong impulse which I do not want to act upon. Yeah, I have the capacity to withstand that impulse, and I have very little amount of that. I can do that a couple of times over the day. The more intense I have to say no, the more my capacity will shrink, and I have to be very careful about this capacity of willpower. Yeah, not to give it out for trivialities and banalities over the day. Yeah, thank you for sharing, Tim. Karen is sharing. Thank you, Ulla. I found that really useful, how you split the thoughts into four, and also bringing compassion for myself to the thought and the potential situation it might be bringing about. Yeah, again, we had it yesterday, we have it today. The importance of the compassion for ourselves. It's to say we did not decide to have these impulses. Yeah, they are. If you sit in meditation and just be aware of the many impulses you have over the day, you can make that your practice for today, and you will end up in the evening with total compassion for yourself. Just notice the many suggestions your heart mind brings along about what you could think, what you could do, and what you could say. Yeah. And it pops up with impulses all the time. We could do that. We could say that. We could eat that. Yeah. And in the end, you stand up going, oh, wow, what an overwhelming buffet of suggestions. Yeah. And some come with such a conviction and such a drive that it's really hard to withstand them. And maybe that just observing that for a day, is bringing compassion, also appreciation for the great work you're already doing, because you're already saying no to a lot of those impulses. And Helena was sharing, I find it helpful to think of not moving on to action. Yeah, I recognize the impulse, accept it, let it be there, beautiful, respectfully, but then I pull out a favorite light phrase to help me remember not to act out the impulse. Yeah, I say, not today, my good man. Yeah, beautiful. In order to give myself permission to do it differently in that moment. Yeah, beautiful sharing. Also in those days where the harmful action happens, I find an apology, both to myself and the person who got the brunt of my aggression. Helps a lot. I'm human, I'm not perfect, but I'm sorry that I didn't succeed in holding back my aggressive impulse. That is a beautiful sharing, Helena. Thank you. Yeah, it's that, and what you wrote is so important, because to say it's not about undoing the impulses. They will probably charge through our system forever. Yeah, it's not being ashamed of having an impulse. You did not create it. You did not choose to have it. It's just shooting through. You are not your impulses. Yeah. The only job you have to say is to catch and hold the unhelpful ones. We can be very ashamed of the impulses which are charging through us. And that is a waste of energy. Yeah, you are not your impulses. And yeah, the apology, I find that a very respectful and responsible way to say, I'm on the way of holding with more and more capacity unhelpful impulses. Yeah. But it will happen that I'm not capable of. And I'm sorry for the harm this incapacity did in that moment. I will, as we said with Jane later, use that regret to help me to train and learn in the future. Thank you so much to all of you. That was a beautiful session, and your sharings are very much appreciated. Tomorrow we're going to talk about beautiful ways to nourish clarity within us. Yeah, to make clarity a practice, rather than to say I have to have it. Yeah, and we've explored together how to do that. Thank you so much for coming today. And I'm looking forward to be with you again tomorrow. Have a lovely day, all of you.